What'd you take away from your first regular season game with this team, and how's the chemistry coming along?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously rough for me personally, but just being able to fight on both ends of the floor is something that I always know. If my shot is not falling, I can get it back on defense. But I know I'll have a better night tonight. But my team always believes in me. They put a lot of confidence into me. My coaches put a lot of confidence into me, and it just can tell me to keep going and keep going. And just being able to have a system that really has your back is really important, and I really appreciate it.
She finally hit the layup, and the crowd in Dallas let her know exactly what they thought about the celebration that followed it. Reese drove baseline, caught the ball in the paint, put it up soft off the glass, watched it drop through, and then proceeded to deliver a response that nobody in that building was prepared for. She flexed, she pointed at the crowd, she chest bumped a teammate, she pointed again. 3 separate and distinct celebrations executed back to back in rapid succession for a routine 2-point basket that happens hundreds of times every single night in arenas across this league without generating any reaction beyond the scorer's table, updating the scoreboard. Angel Reese, a professional basketball player entering her 3rd WNBA season, a 2-time double-double machine, a player whose personal brand is reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars, celebrated a standard mid-game layup like she had just hit a game-winning buzzer beater in the deciding game of a championship series. The crowd booed her immediately and loudly. Welcome back to Hoopzonic, where we watch every play and tell you honestly what it means for the larger story being written around this player right now.
Anybody's basketball. When it goes up, it's anybody's basketball. And what Angel Reese has made a living at is saying, no, it's not. It's mine.
That specific moment does not just tell you something about Angel Reese as an individual player navigating a fresh start situation. It tells you something about where this entire conversation currently stands, where her career is positioned relative to where her personal brand projects it to be, and what the growing gap between the persona she projects publicly and the performance she delivers on the floor is starting to cost her in ways that a 2-0 record cannot fully conceal. The Atlanta Dream are 2 wins into their season, and their record looks clean. Their start is as positive as any team in the league, right? Now, and Angel Reese is right in the middle of it, celebrating every single basket that goes in like she is still auditioning for a role that the front office already handed her when they gave up 2 first-round picks to bring her here. The celebration frequency and the shooting efficiency are telling 2 completely different stories about the same player simultaneously. Let us be precise about what actually happened in this game. Because the internet moved quickly in multiple directions simultaneously, and most of them landed somewhere adjacent to the actual point rather than directly on it. Atlanta Dream at Dallas Wings, May 12th, 2026. The Dream won 77-70. 2. Alicia Gray led all scorers with 26 points, not Angel Reese. Reese finished with 12 points and 16 rebounds, producing her 2nd double-double of the young season. And somewhere in the flow of that competitive basketball game, Angel Reese drove to the basket, converted a layup, and then performed a 3-act celebration sequence that social media could not stop looping for the next 48 hours. The game was won, the double-double was real. The 26-point performance that actually carried the offensive load belonged to someone wearing a different number. Hoopzonic is not going to let the double-double headline do the work of bearing those specific details because they matter enormously for understanding what the Dream actually have in this acquisition.
Double tap, okay. Move that ball around. Good cut. Oh, another easy miss. Angel getting all the boards. I don't know what that was about. Did they try to move the table on her? Okay.
Here's what made the celebration land so badly with the crowd and with everyone watching, honestly, from outside the Atlanta fan base. It was not the celebration existing in complete isolation from everything else. Athletes celebrate, and they absolutely should. Competition produces genuine emotion, and that emotion is legitimate and worth expressing. The passion is real. The energy is real. Nobody rational is sitting here arguing that Angel Reese should play basketball with the flat affect of someone going through a professional obligation rather than competing in a sport she has dedicated her life to. The problem is the context surrounding the celebration, and the context is everything. When you have spent 2 full professional seasons building a well-documented and heavily discussed public reputation for missing layups in the paint, when that specific and persistent failure has been the central analytical talking point around your game since your rookie year, and then you convert one and immediately respond as if you have just accomplished something remarkable. The crowd reads the room before you do. They watch the same tape everyone else watched. They absorb the same narrative that followed you, from Chicago to Atlanta. And when the magnitude of the celebration dramatically exceeds the magnitude of the moment it is attached to, crowds respond in the only language available to them. They did exactly that. And then she waved at them. As Reese was transitioning back on defense following the basket and the celebration, the crowd showered her with boos, and she responded by waving her arms deliberately in their direction, actively inviting more noise, leaning into the hostility, rather than redirecting her energy toward the competitive task in front of her. She has demonstrated this tendency before, and under specific circumstances, it reads as a genuinely compelling competitive characteristic. An athlete who feeds on crowd energy, who embraces the spotlight regardless of whether it is warm or hostile, who refuses to shrink when the atmosphere turns against her. In the right performance context, that is the personality of a player you want on your team in difficult moments. But there is a conditional requirement attached to that reading. The performance has to justify the confidence. The shooting chart and the scoreboard have to be telling a story that supports the energy being projected. When the boos are earned by a pattern of performance that the crowd has been watching accumulate across multiple seasons, and the response to those earned boos is to wave for more of them, the gesture stops reading as bold competitive confidence and starts reading as a player who has not fully processed the distance between her personal brand narrative and her professional basketball reality.
Angel Reese, she tries to be a dog on the floor. She tries to be a beast on the court, but one of the two can finish around the rim while the other one is struggling to finish around the rim. Now I'm gonna give a little bit of credit here to Angel Reese. She was talking to the media today and she admitted it. These layups, not that easy for me.
The 2-0 record is real, and it deserves genuine acknowledgement because winning is the only metric that ultimately matters in professional sports, and Atlanta has been winning. The front office has legitimate reasons to feel encouraged about the direction this team is moving. But the honest conversation that the winning record is being used to sidestep, the one that gets avoided every single time someone points to the clean start as evidence that everything is fine, is about who is actually responsible for generating those wins at the most critical moments. In Game 1 against Minnesota, it was Tahina Pow converting the deciding basket with 12 seconds remaining that sealed the victory. In Game 2 against Dallas, it was Alicia Gray dropping 26 points on a night when the team needed someone to carry the offensive load from start to finish. Reese is averaging 11.5 points across both games. The leading scorer on her own team in both contests was someone wearing a different number. The Atlanta Dream made that trade because they believed they were acquiring a legitimate offensive cornerstone, a paint presence capable of converting high percentage opportunities, drawing fouls at a consistent rate, and forcing opposing defenses to allocate resources towards stopping her. 2 games in the player filling that description is Alicia Gray. The player celebrating the loudest is someone else entirely.
That's a turnover. Okay, let's see what else we can do. Come here. Cookies. Got it took. So that was another turnover. Okay, let's see what we're gonna do right here. Work out. Block shot. Okay. Oh, threes. Didn't even hit the rim. Okay, Canada. Full court pass. Caitlin court pass. Okay. Nah, that's weird. You can't make some of this stuff up. Let's see.
The rebounding numbers are genuine, and they deserve honest acknowledgement completely independent of any other. part of this conversation. 15 rebounds per game to open the season, elite, legitimate. The most consistent and most reliable dimension of her professional game since the first day she stepped on a WNBA floor, and a number that no amount of critical analysis around her shooting efficiency changes or diminishes. She is leading the league in rebounding right now, and that standing is earned through real competitive effort and real physical work on every possession. But rebounding in isolation does not win basketball games, and this is the fundamental limitation of the statistic as a primary measure of a player's contribution to winning. Someone still has to put the ball in the basket. And when the player whose role on the roster requires her to be a reliable scoring presence in the paint is shooting 4 for 11 in a game and missing free throws that the free throw line is supposed to make automatic, the team is winning, in spite of her offensive performance rather than because of it. The record looks clean. The engine generating those wins is doing considerable work to keep her name positioned on the correct side of the narrative.
Crossover, spin move, finish from the hip. Ah, damn. Oh, from the outside. Jab step. Drive. Oh, missed all the rim right there. Fast break. Oh, shoot. Now, we've seen Angel pass this up numerous times. A play like this, we've seen her pass up numerous times. She took it herself this time. She took it herself up and loopy. Damn. Oh, perfect pass. Dime. Bloop. B. Question is, how much longer are her teammates going to want to watch this until they say something about this, until they're like, eesh, maybe we gotta ice her out a little bit.
Here's the part of this conversation that the 2-0 record is being used most aggressively to paper over. Angel Reese does not look measurably better than she did last season in the areas that matter most for evaluating whether this acquisition delivers the value the Dream paid for it. She looks consistent in her rebounding. She looks identical in her finishing mechanics and her free throw execution, the two areas that everyone spent the entirety of last season discussing as the central limitations on her effectiveness as a professional player. She might actually look worse in one specific sense, because last season in Chicago, there was at least a plausible narrative available. Maybe the roster around her was insufficient. Maybe the system was limiting what she could do. Maybe new coaching and better teammates were the variables that would unlock the version of this player everyone was waiting to see. Atlanta gave her every element of that fresh start simultaneously. New city, new organization, new coaching staff. Coach Carl Smesko called her outstanding in practice before the opening night tip. Every external excuse that existed in Chicago has been removed from the equation. What remains when you strip away every external variable and look honestly at what the tape is showing is the same finishing problem in the same situations against the same types of defenders, producing the same results that followed her out of Chicago and unpacked its bags in Atlanta like it never left. Hoopzonic will keep watching every game and every possession with full documentation. Drop your honest take below. Does the finishing problem get fixed this season, or does it follow her through this chapter the same way it followed her through the last one? And this is the part where the conversation usually splits into two extremes. One side wants to pretend none of this matters because the team is winning, and the other side wants to turn every missed shot into a career-ending crisis. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Angel Reese is still a productive player. The rebounding matters, the energy matters, the physicality matters. Those are real contributions that help teams survive difficult stretches during games. But eventually, especially for a player with this much media attention and this much branding power, the production has to match the performance image being sold to the public. That is where the scrutiny comes from, not because people hate confidence. Sports fans love confident athletes when the results back it up. The problem is that every celebration, every viral moment, every dramatic reaction becomes magnified when the weaknesses in the game still look exactly the same. The audience notices patterns. They remember the missed layups. They remember the shooting percentages. They remember the moments where someone else carried the offense while the spotlight still found Angel Reese afterward. And to be fair, this season is still young. 2 games do not define an entire year. Players improve, systems evolve, chemistry develops over time. There is still room for her to settle into Atlanta's offense and become the player this franchise believes she can be. But the noise surrounding her is not going away anytime soon. In fact, every nationally televised game is probably going to increase it, because once a narrative forms around an athlete, every possession starts getting viewed through that lens. That is why the Dallas moment mattered more than a simple layup. It was not really about 2 points. It was about perception. It was about expectations. And it was about a crowd reacting in real time to the difference between hype and execution. The season is long. Angel Reese still has time to change the conversation. But eventually, the loudest response is not going to come from celebrations, gestures, or social media clips. It is going to come from consistently putting the ball in the basket. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more sports commentary, player analysis, and WNBA coverage all season long.